I moved to my rainy park, parking in my car. My house was just too noisy, and I got a phone call. And so I thought, well, this is good timing, and I should just leave. I don't know how long I'll be able to last, because my feet are already getting cold. I think I was about to talk about this man that I met at the day yesterday, and how he owns 2 recovery houses, or 2 group homes, he called it. And I guess they're also run by the health authority, but he works in partnership with them and he's the owner. And I thought, wow, that's cool. And he was saying how they're trying to make them less and less medicalized and more free. So he just struck me as someone who gets it. And I could imagine if I was in a place to open some kind of respite, he would be a cool person to consult with, because he's had some experience with providing space for people. So I thought that was really cool, and so I got his information. And I also connected with the woman who was doing the keynote speech, pretty much, and it was about the Recovery Declaration of Canada. And so I asked her, because on this new declaration that they were getting people to sign, inviting people to commit to the recovery philosophy as opposed to medicalized philosophy, getting people who work in the system to commit to this. And the number one thing that people commit to, or the first thing, was learn from people with lived experience by acknowledging and valuing their experiential knowledge, and engage them in all aspects of service planning, delivery, research, and evaluation. And I think that is definitely the most important thing to be on there. And there's only 4 points on the Recovery Declaration, but that was the first one. And so I asked her, I said, at a break, I said, I love that that's there. That's amazing. That's definitely, I completely agree. But where are the examples, or where are the documents and procedures and protocols and structures and systems in place for that to happen? It's one thing to say that, but there's systems in place for colleagues meeting up and talking about people. There's systems in place for note-taking. There's systems in place for medication prescribing. Where is the system in place to have this learn from people with lived experience and their experiential knowledge, and involve them in and engage them in service planning, delivery, research, and evaluation? Where are the steps for that? Where are the protocols? Where are the procedures? Because that's not just have one committee once a year, one day, get some feedback, and then go about one's daily business of delivering services. It's actually, that is such a loaded statement. That would say, like, have peer support workers on teams and actually value them and their experience by paying them for their input and have their perspective all the time. So I think for me, right now, at this point, who knows how it'll unfold, because I talk to myself about these things from my perspective, but I also understand I don't know everything that's happening out there. And so that's why I wanted to ask her. And she said that they're going to be creating a guide for people with lived experience, so they know what recovery philosophy is and what they have a right to ask for, etc. And maybe a little bit of a guide and a compass of being able to say, well, that's not recovery language, what you're speaking to me about, or whatever. So she said that's in the pipeline, and that's hopeful to me. And they did involve a lot of people with lived experience in the creating of this guide and a lot of the things that they're doing. So that's part of that first statement. But I think that is a huge statement, and from what I know right now, it sounds like a token statement. It sounds like, well, yes, that's nice. And since we wrote it there, we can say that that's what we're doing. But unless there's some kind of real process in place for receiving that feedback and that feed forward and service delivery and planning, and it is happening in small ways and large ways in a lot of places. I'm not saying it's not. But I really hope that that statement gets taken more seriously in terms of valuing peer support. And from what I heard from someone here, there's going to be changes to peer support that actually shows that people are going to be devaluing peer support and its importance in the system. And I don't really know how that's going to play out. It's just something I heard. So I don't know. And I have been able to give my feedback in places and things, but one thing somebody mentioned was people are afraid to give feedback because they are afraid, well, how will they be treated after? Or if they're not being treated well by somebody that works to serve them, well, then what? So there's some fear in there too. But I was going to say that this statement to me sounds like a token statement. It sounds very nice and lovely. And also different places in the country are at different stages of adopting things like this. So it's a good statement. I shouldn't be negative about it, but I just feel like, I guess for me, I feel like I have so much to say that that it would be nice to just have a full-time job saying what I want to say. And also, too, though, in this process of self-dialogue, I'm finding that some of the stuff I say then sort of appears in my reality. So I'm not saying that's caused by me saying it, but by me saying it in a parallel process with what's unfolding in reality, then that's made salient to me that, oh, that is happening and that's good. One example, somebody was talking yesterday and there's this building that was built that's like this big care facility, state of the art really, and they call the different areas of the facility neighborhoods. And I talked about neighborhoods, just I like the word neighborhood, and that's this huge building and different areas are different neighborhoods. So I thought, oh wow, that's neat. And the woman who spoke also talked about needing the lexicon of optimistic language. So maybe if I go through some of these videos that I'm doing with myself again, I can create my own lexicon of transconscious words and things that I would like to be used to describe myself. Because when I was part of the panel, they asked what is the part that is most unhelpful? And I said paternalism. Not listening to what a person needs, like when I was in the psych ward and given a medication I didn't want and given it anyway, and then it made things worse, and then I had to get off that medication and then sort of shake it off and get back to life. But I knew it was right for me and they didn't listen. But I think I could have also said pathologization or medicalization. Sure, like yes, there's a little medical thing, or medication helps in some ways sometimes, so then maybe it seems like a medical thing, but it's not a medical thing overall. It's something else, and just because some medication dulls me out and helps doesn't mean that I have this big pathological problem. So I don't like that either, and I see it as something else. But then I was also thinking about, and I was talking to my friend about this too, how this pathology, this label, could actually be beneficial in a way. Like I resist it, and I talk about I don't like the label and everything. I don't like implying that. I don't like the implication that I'm disabled in a way, because I feel more enabled, just disabled in the ways of functioning and fitting into society, which is a load of crap, a lot of it anyway. So there's a misunderstanding there. But I feel like the label could be helpful in that if I decide to fully embody my mania, thrive, go for my dreams, and I sort of fall on my face doing that, then they'll bring me back to reality. If I go too far into mapland, into mapping this uncharted territory within and making that manifest in the external reality, these pathologizing people will pull me back, medicate me, and say, oh, it's your bipolar disorder. And then I can smile and nod and say, okay, and then try again. And that's sort of what I've been doing. But the trouble is, after I get out of the psych ward, instead of becoming my artist self or moving towards my light body self, that most beautiful self that I am too, that I've seen other people as and seen other people shift to in front of my eyes, why can't I shift to that for myself? And when I shift into that, I'm going to create and experience and unfold a different reality for myself than the one that I'm experiencing by dusting myself off and going back into working in the land of pathology. Which in a way, the pathology stuff helps just to keep one tethered enough to this reality to not actually leave the reality altogether. Because that'll happen eventually. There's no rush for that. And I mentioned too that we're educating people away from themselves and then need the mental health paradigm and people to help them, and this is wasting normal people's lives too. It's like, why do we create this divide and then have the divide try to heal the lower, when what creates that divide in the first place, I think it's partly we're not recognizing all these different lines of intelligences and allowing people to actually flower into who they are. We force people to think that there's only one way to be successful and smart in this world. There needs to be more acceptance of diversity of consciousness. We're getting there with diversity of genders and things, but what about consciousness and intelligence? So me self-dialoguing is about creating my own lexicon, my own context, unfolding my experiential knowledge and what I see, my pragmatic learning and knowledge. And I am getting pretty close to being ready to be more embodied, and I think that's partly why I'm having a reaction to just staying at home. She mentioned the word iterative, and I like that word. It's like, I think my videos to myself are iterative. I'm unfolding one thing and then the next iteration and the next iteration. And when I share stuff, half the stuff I say is sort of realized or come up with on the spot. And they talked about how, people can live a full life with partial or full remission of symptoms. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to be in full remission from society. And I don't mean actually like, I can't go anywhere, I can't interact with people. I think how I am, if I'm not attached to society, then I'm not in society. And it doesn't matter if I'm actually physically out and about in society or not. It's more the inner orientation. And she even mentioned kindness, empathy, and human interaction. And her position is knowledge broker. I thought that was kind of interesting. And they mentioned knowledge translation too. And I think my self-dialogue to myself is a form of knowledge translation. I'm translating what I feel on the inside to words and videos. And on the panel, she was even asked about involuntary treatment, and she brought up advanced directives. She said, we encourage people to do advanced directives. And I was thinking to myself, why don't all clinicians help people with advanced directives to keep them feeling safe? and makes it easier on everyone. And so I, of course, said I created an advance directive after my paternalistic hospital experience. And I said, so then I feel safe calling for help if I need it.